I'm refilming this video with green hair because I realized that I just wasn't in frame for like half the video. Yeah, I'm just refilming the whole thing. This was like a month ago. I'm aware that it is like almost summer. However, I will persevere. These are the books I read this winter. I am not that much of a reader, mind you. So there's not gonna be like 20 books on this list. I only buy books if I'm gonna read them over and over again. There's no real logic behind this that is actually rational, but I just don't like to consume for the sake of consuming. So if I'm not gonna like write in the book or something like that, I prefer not to buy it because there's just no reason to try to like make books a fashion statement and buy books just to like fill my shelf and for decoration and to feel like I identify as a reader. So some of these books I just read online. The first book that I read was The Picture of Dorian Gray. So I got this for my birthday. My dad, he gave me money to buy books, and I think this was like 40 bucks. So this is the only book I got, but this is the uncensored version. So it's the gay version, which, oh my gosh, there are some quotes in here that I just love dearly. So basically this book is about, okay, so on the surface level, ignore the fact that I cannot take care of books to save my life, but this guy who should have made a script for this. This guy who basically wants to stay young and beautiful, because there's this idea in the Victorian age that your face showed your character, and so he wanted to be able to be beautiful but then ugly on the inside and not have it show, and his wish is granted. But on a deeper level, this book is about how you can't judge the decadent movement, the aestheticism, I think it's called, that movement, because you should not assume that life imitates art, because when you start assuming, okay, so there's a painting of him that becomes ugly as he commits sins instead of him. And so this book is about how the author feels like you shouldn't assume, this is the annotated version, how you shouldn't assume that just because someone is painting an ugly way, that doesn't mean that they are ugly on the inside. And it's dangerous to think that life imitates art, because then you may start trying to seek these ugly things and behavior in order for it to show up in your art if you're fascinated by those things in your art, like certain types of art. Yeah, it's also kind of mirroring the Dorian age, hence the name Dorian. In ancient Greece, where this teacher and this student, they'd both be men, they'd have this kind of sexual relationship, and then they'd go on to their lives. It also imitates Oscar Wilde's life, because he felt he was corrupted by some of the, not corrupted, but he became indulgent because of some of the books he read. He said that Dorian Gray would be him in another life, maybe. It's just such an interesting read. Just little metaphors that you can catch throughout. I'm trying to think of any other ones I spotted off the top of my head. I don't know, all I can think of is just evidence for the main things I said these books are about. I'll read a few lines that I like in this, as well as a few words I learned that I liked. I had 300 annotations in here, so it took me forever to get through this, but anyways, those are, some of it's in purple pen because I just lose pencils and pens, so I have to use whatever I can find. A quote that okay, so I guess I'll just read some stuff from this page. Oh, I also forgot to say this was a reaction to basically this guy who was into being indulgent, but not in a way that is immoral. And Oscar thought, if you try to do that, then you're just gonna become concerned with covering up your crimes like Dorian instead of actually being good. So, l'art pour l'art. Art for art's sake. That had nothing to do with what I just said. But anyways, you know how I love secrecy. It is the only thing that can make modern life wonderful or mysterious to us. And then, let me find a word. I mean, I feel like I say lurid all the time now. I learned it from this book. And I was like, that is a nice word, I guess. The next book I read online, because it's actually really easy to pirate books online. That was my bad to the authors, but anyways. It's called Night, which is a book from a Jewish boy's point of view about the Holocaust, and is from an actual survivor. Like, it's an autobiography, I guess, because he's alive, so he wrote it himself. But yeah, books like The Boy in Striped Pajamas or anything like that, they're not good for school because they're not from the person's point of view. That's actually the main thing, because it's always from this bystander who is like innocent, or like if it is from the person's point of view, like the Anne Frank book, you still aren't really see what's happening. Like, people are taken away, you don't know where, you don't know the actual atrocities. And when it's from a bystander's point of view, like The Boy in Striped Pajamas, you're led to believe that you wouldn't participate in the Holocaust when chances are you would. But that book was so sad. It is like, it's really, I can tear up every time I talk about it, because it is crazy. Obviously, it's just, I don't even know how to explain it. The things that they experienced, the things that humanity was able to do to each other is haunting. The scene that stuck with me the most, I mean, a lot of the scenes are incredibly disturbing, obviously. Most of the book is incredibly disturbing. There were some good parts, like I liked learning more about Judaism and their traditions through the book. And I felt like I got to learn more about how the Holocaust worked. But a scene that really stuck with me was, so they would be moved from camp to camp, right, when Allies started to invade camps and like free the people in them. And so when they're on the train, and they're extremely emaciated, right? We've probably all seen the pictures. They're extremely starving, which even like then again, just showing the pictures, you're still not reading from their dialogue. You still have no idea what it felt like. And we never will, but at least you become closer to knowing when you read it. But anyways, so they're on the train, and as they're passing by, like, no one cares. The bystanders looking into the train, seeing these people suffering, no one cares. Like, seeing these people go insane, no one cares. Or just be, anyways. And so I think somehow, like, someone throws a crumb in or like a piece of bread or something, and they're like, they think it's funny to watch them fight over it. And this man gets the bread, and this boy starts beating him to death, and the man is like, stop, it's me, like, it's your father, I'm gonna share it with you, like, stop, it's me, it's your father. And the boy knows, and he kills him anyway, and eats like the little piece of bread, knowing it was his dad. It was so sad. It's a really sad book. It's really sad. even the main character like finds himself not caring about his dad anymore. It's really sad. If you're like a sensitive person, I wouldn't recommend reading it because I'm not even much of a crier, but the book is still so sad to me. I can't talk about it without tearing up. So I read that. It was really informative. I enjoyed the experience of learning about certain aspects of how the Judaism works and the Holocaust works, but it's a really heartbreaking book, but it's written beautifully. That was like the last thing I thought to mention because like obviously that's not the main point, but it's originally written in I think Yiddish, and then his wife translated it to English, and it's still so like she still managed to include so much prose, which is basically poetic writing. Like it's still so beautiful. So recommend it. I forgot to say about The Picture of Dorian Gray. It was a fascinating read, but it was extremely slow because like it's art for art's sake. So he will just describe things in detail for art's sake. But sometimes I'm bored. Sometimes I'm bored. The next book I read was Call Me By Your Name. Again, I don't even know how many times I've read this book. About this boy who is closeted and falls into obsession with this guy that comes to his summer home. I've read this book so many times. I've also watched a lot of think piece like video essays on this book, and they're all really interesting. Like I've watched one that was like I think a few hours long. It's just like it actually is interesting to see people like dissect the morality of this book. I couldn't regurgitate it for you. Like you'll have to watch hours of videos on your own, but it's so interesting. This book, so poetic sounding, so proseful, so beautiful. I mean, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna avoid the controversy because I feel like I couldn't say everything I want to say about it off the top of my head. But I bawled my eyes out. I just got done saying I'm not really a crier. I swear I'm not, but I bawled my eyes out after reading this book for the first time. And when I first read it, I felt like I really identified with Elio. So that's probably why I cried so hard. Like I swear I cried for the last like 30 to like 50 pages, maybe. Like it's incredibly slow at the like 190 page mark, maybe 180. But like the first time I read it, like, I don't know, I cried so hard. Yeah, very proseful. Read it, I don't know how many times I read it, but yeah, I read it again. I think I might have read it I read it online the first time and then I bought it. So I was like, I'm gonna read this over and over again. Really beautiful book. I also like the yearning, obviously, and how it feels like forbidden. I like the like sexual nature. I like the self-loathing. Good book. I wish like, I actually don't think that I like books that have like an actor on them. So, because I don't even like the movie. Like I hate the movie. But like, I think I read it after the movie came out. I don't know if I probably read the book and then watched the movie, but yeah. I think that the next book I finished was, I'd like to say Nietzsche and the Nazis. I listened to the audiobook. In history class, I actually found World War I interesting. Because in World War II, it's just like tragedy. We read this poem about the trenches, not like, oh my gosh, I love fighting for my country. Like, not something like that, but just the terrible conditions and how this was like the first war where people realized like, you know what? maybe it's not fun fighting wars. Maybe I don't care about honor enough to put myself in these situations. And something about like that rock bottom scenario was so interesting to me, because it wasn't like genocide. But I like found World War, I started like wanting to learn about the Holocaust, but I was also interested in this book because I just like philosophy, and we learned about Nietzsche in my intro to philosophy class, and I liked him. I mean, he's like incredibly close to sounding like a fascist, but if you dig into his beliefs, I found from this audiobook, you'll find out that he doesn't support genocide. But like a lot of Nazis, I think even Hitler like had a Nietzsche book. I don't know, like his phrases have definitely appeared on my Tumblr. Like his quotes, like "to live is to suffer," "human all too human," the title of one of his books. So yeah, I think the book went over the Holocaust and like stages of the Holocaust, and Nietzsche and Nietzsche's philosophy, and what part of Nietzsche's philosophy Nazis borrowed from. So the next book I read was Smart Boys and Fast Girls. I just don't know how I ended up finding out about this book. Added it to my to be read. I was like, I need something light, so I got this book. I didn't realize it's for like middle schoolers, or maybe even younger. Like I probably could have read this when I was like 11, 12, until after I bought it, because I couldn't find it online for free, so I literally had to buy it to read it. I read it anyways, and it was actually an interesting book. It's about this girl who needs to be tutored, but if her parents find out, they'll make her quit track because they don't want track getting in the way of her grades. But if she doesn't get tutored, she'll get kicked off the track team by the coach, because like nowadays you have to have good grades to be in a sport. So if you're failing a class, like they'll literally kick you off the team. So the parents come home early and they find the tutor in the house, so she pretends to be dating him. So they're like fake dating while he has a girlfriend, and I love fake, or at least I know I used to love fake dating trips, and then she has a crush on this guy on the track team. And it's like one of those things where they're like, it's kind of like enemies to lovers / fake dating. Like it takes them forever to, like takes them both forever to realize that they like each other. It was a cute book, even though it's for like literal children, so I'm too old to be reading it. It was a cute book, like I can't lie, and it was only like 200 pages. Last book I read, I would like to say the last book that I finished, took me forever to do so, was Fight Club. That book was so disgusting. Oh my gosh, it's not even like a communist book. Like he says like a few things that sound minimalist. Not that I was looking for a communist book, but I was like, you just hear a lot of people saying like it's easy to read it from a communist lens. No, it's not. Not that I'm communist. But anyways, that's besides the point. So basically, this guy has insomnia. He doesn't want to have it anymore. He meets this guy. They start a bunch of these intense clubs. It's really like, so it's actually written pretty. Like, I wouldn't say it's proseful, but I liked the writing. But again, it's disgusting. The example, my go-to example for how disgusting it is Martha, his girlfriend, likes to suck fat out of her mom's thighs and inject it into her lips. Tyler, the main character's friend, likes to use that fat to make soap. Martha comes over looking for her mom's fat because she keeps it in a Ziploc bag and stuffs it in their freezer. The main character is trying to stop her from looking in the freezer because the fat's not there because I used it for soap. They're tussling, the fat spills on the floor, they're slipping and sliding in it, wrestling each other. Disgusting. Ugh. Like, so I like taboo books. Like, that's why I've read some Stephen King stuff. Like, I've probably read like 4 Stephen King books. Like, I don't know. I don't mind explicit books, clearly, but that was like, I can't do with bodily fluids or like stuff similar to that. I just can't deal with it. I just can't. Like, I don't care if it's like a scene about how they're so scared, like they pee their pants and it's like the pants are sticking to their legs, like, but like anything like farther than that, I just cannot do it. That book was so disgusting. Like, the whole premise is interesting. The book is interesting, it's just disgusting. So I don't think I would necessarily, I mean, like, I was telling my brother about it and he was like, that sounds good. So maybe if you like those types of things, like you don't mind like disgusting things, then you should read it. But it was a no for me. It was a bit too much. And then yeah, those are all the books I read winter quarter. Which is kind of surprising because like I had less time winter quarter and I did more reading than I'm doing now. I'm literally reading like 4 books at once right now. And I haven't finished a single one of them, although I'm super close to finishing one of them. But that's besides the point. That's the end of this video.